Francine Witt is a poet, flash fiction writer, and playwright. She has stories in the upcoming Best Small Fictions and Flash Fiction America. Her flash fiction books include the newly just published Tunnel of Love, and Dressed All Wrong for This, and her poetry books include Cafe Crazy and The Theory of Flesh. She recently launched Francine Witt pop-up prompts, Zoom sessions that offer prompts and exercises. And I've taken a few and they're a lot of fun. She's the flash fiction editor for Flash Boulevard and the South Florida Poetry Journal. You can follow her on Twitter at Francine Witt or visit her at new website at francinewitt.com. Franny lives in New York City. Take it away.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you very much, Paul. And thank you for allowing me to celebrate my new book and, take part of your reading, and look forward to hearing all the other readers. And so I've also asked, as my spotlight readers, I'll be reading, but I want to let them read first. Mickey Aronoff was supposed to read. She was not feeling well. So I've asked Joanna Tice and Pam Painter to read from their own work. And I asked them in particular, because not only are they wonderful writers, but they've been taking my pop-ups. So I'm sort of like pushing that a little bit tonight. I kind of want you all to know about them. My pop-ups are these little 90-minute sessions. Like I call them pop-ups because they're not, they're not an ongoing thing. I sort of do it when I get to it, when the feeling is right. And it's like a self-contained, session where I give like a little free writing direction, a little exercise. We look at different people's story. We look at published stories and then do some prompts, maybe based on what those people were doing or some other ideas or whatever strikes us. And we read if we want to, and that's it. And it's a lot of fun. And I'll be doing some giveaways after each reader, and that will be, I'm going to give away a session. So you might want to drop in, and and it's only $15 and no commitment after that. So it's like, kind of like a one-night stand where you can't catch anything, So that's the jokes. You're not going to get better than that. Okay. I'm just telling you. So, let me start by introducing Joanna Tice. She's a lawyer turned writer living in Washington, D.C. Her short stories and flash fiction have been most recently in Anti-Heroine Chic and Fictive Dream, a favorite of mine. Most of her writing and book reviews can be found at joannatice.com. Joanna.
Thank you so much, Francine, and thanks, Paul, for organizing this. I can't say enough about how great the prompt classes are. It's just the best sort of environment to get the juices flowing. And the story I'm going to read tonight was started in one of Francine's classes, I think October, November, somewhere around there. And it was published in Anti-Heroine Chic in December. So it's called A Car in Neutral. My boyfriend, as he leans against our bedroom window, is a watercolor. His white t-shirt is stained umber from the street lamp. His forehead is gray striped from the shadows of branches. Aram says, "There's a car outside. It's just idling." I mumble to let him know that I've heard, but also that I don't want to leave our bed. It smells like us. Aram's scentless soap that transforms in his pores into something earthy, like a rose compressed between the pages of a book, and my overpriced anti-aging face cream. Aram taps on the window. "Shh, can't you hear it?" But I can't. Earlier that day, the landlord bled our radiator, an alien object that neither of us had noticed before. In the October dark, the machine ticks as evenly as the heartbeat of a hibernating animal. Because Aram doesn't move, I put on my glasses and go to him. Outside and 2 stories below us, a panther of a car pumps exhaust into the silent street. The glow of its headlights falls over the curb like a heavy perfume. Together, we watch it drive away. It bounds over a speed bump as if the driver hasn't noticed the signs. In San Diego, Aram's surfer good looks carved out opportunities for him, his slow smile acting as an all-access pass. San Diego Aram got jobs in offices for which he had no qualifications. He wore a suit that an old boss bought for him, though I told him that it was inappropriate. In our new city where my job has carried us, strangers break the rule against eye contact to tell Aram that he could be a model, but they don't hold open doors for him. They don't buy him clothes. So Aram does what he can. On Tuesday and Thursday nights, he takes the bus south to an art school where he reclines in a chair or stands prettily erect or sits on the floor with his back curved like a cashew. Sometimes the instructor sets a timer and Aram changes positions at every beep so that her students can capture his lines in a few quick strokes. Aram comes home jittery. He says all that holding makes him restless, like an animal on a leash. Instead of sleeping, he pulls a chair up to our bedroom window and watches for movement in the street. The movie is over, the pizza finished. From under a blanket on the couch, I ask, any news? On work, I mean? Aram answers by staring at the television screensaver, which plays drone views of impossible peaks, Annapurna, Everest. Do the art students smudge in the bruised hollows under his eyes, or are they too polite to show the damage? To meet the cold outside, the radiator has lowered its pitch to a steady thump, thump, thump. I slide my toes under Aram's knee and talk about my coworker's crush on her roommate, the feelings that threaten to engulf her. When Aram jumps off the couch and races to our bedroom, I don't have to follow to know that the car is outside, idling on our one-way street. At happy hour at the Irish bar near Union Station, my coworker and her roommate drink buy one, get one freeze and accidentally on purpose touch. I leave early and find that San Diego Aram is waiting for me in our steam heated apartment on the 2nd floor. He wears jeans instead of sweatpants. He leads me to the bedroom where he has made our bed in paper, neon yellow highlighted and blue ink annotated. Minimalist works of art, expressive of momentum and Aram's progress towards full-time employment. Aram hugs me and whispers into my hair, I think it's a Corvette C5. Take a look. The sheets that cover our bed are about the car. On top of my pillow is an image of a red version of it, its wheels angled suggestively. On the bed's foot, sales listings for vintage Corvettes. Along its edge, articles detailing changes to the car's body over 3 decades. In the center, pages and pages of conversations between car guys online. My printer paper, my precious toner, wasted. Used not for job leads, but for the mysterious car that fuels Aram's insomnia. Guys on Reddit say you can tell a C5 because of the tailgate, this here. They think it's a 97. I torque out of his embrace. Why are you wasting time on this car? I'm curious, why aren't you? After all the months of keeping quiet, the car has pushed me into honest, dangerous territory. Because I don't have time to be curious. I'm working, I'm paying most of the bills. I'm dealing with you, moping. With the printouts between us, Aram repeats the word moping until it loses meaning. He tells me that I don't understand how bored he is, how helpless he feels sending applications into the void, how stupid he sounds around my coworkers, how I can't understand the profundity of a 6.2 liter engine, the promise emitting from manifolds, and I never will. Where are you going? I ask as Aram shoves his arms into his leather jacket and pops the cap off of his body spray. Work, he says, though it's not Tuesday or Thursday. When the car comes, the idling engine is so loud that it wakes me up. It hauls me out of bed, clicks open the doors, belts me in. The upholstery smells like a breath mint, and the driver's seat vibrates under my pelvis and up through my spine. My bare foot knows to press down on the clutch, and instinct guides it to ease up when I feel the bite. My hand thrusts the car into first gear, and I am roaring across our bedroom floor. Over the car's deep breaths, I shout, "Hey, I can hear it." But my boyfriend is gone. The place that once held him, now lost to negative space. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you so much, Joanna. That was really wonderful. And I think we're gonna do a giveaway right now. Okay, Paul?
You bet.
So I'm gonna pretend I'm Vanna White and Paul is Pat Sajak, okay? Or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to give away a copy of my very first, well, it's not actually my very first, but one of my first chapbooks of flash fiction that actually Pam Painter wrote a blurb on the back. And let's see, I'm going to ask someone to give me a number. Let's see, Zvi, can you just give me a number from 1 to, how many people do we have here, Paul?
28
1 to 28.
or 30 somewhere.
1 to 28 because it's allowing for me also. Zvi,
And
can you
me.
give us a number, Zvi? Okay, he's not hearing me.
Were you asking Svi?
Yeah, I was asking him to give me a number. Zvi, if you want to give me a number from 1 to 28.
Svi,
um, Yeah,
we can't hear you, so you can use your
Could
fingers.
someone else just do it? Or-
Unmuted. Oh,
so
wait
you're
a
not
minute.
muted now.
Wait a minute. Let me check.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Zvi. Okay, I'm going to give you the number 15, Paul. So whoever has number 15 for Paul.
There we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
it's okay. For next time, next one, okay? So, Paul,
That would be Karen Shopper.
great. Okay, Karen, you're gonna get my book, and at the end of my session, you'll connect with me, okay? Your address.
Thank you
Okay,
so
great.
much. Wonderful.
Okay, very nice. Okay, next reader is Pam Painter. Pam Painter is the award-winning author of 5 story collections and co-author of the textbook, What If? Her stories have appeared in numerous journals and anthologies such as Sudden Fiction, Flash Fiction, Microfiction, New Micro, Nothing Short of 100, Smoke Law Quarterly, the best of the first 10 years, and the most recently, Flash Fiction America. Her stories have recently received 3 pushcart prizes and have been produced by the World Theater in LA, London, and New York. That's pretty impressive. So we're thrilled to have the very wonderful Pam Painter.
Thank you. And by the way, Francine, did you say, I had a mess here with my computer. Did you say that Robert Olin Butler was the judge for that first collection? Yeah, I mean,
Yes, for Cold June. Yes.
wonderful collection, Cold June. I love it. In addition to this one, and thank you for asking me to be a part of this launch. I love your work and feel honored to be here with you and to see other Flash writers. It really is exciting. Paul, thank you for making this happen.
Thank you,
So
Pam.
the first story did come from one of Francine's prompts, and it was to create a tableau with 4 to 6 characters watching something or being part of something. It's still in the revision stage, but Francine's prompts are really wonderful, and I'm about ready to go back to revise them and send them out. I wish I could be there next Tuesday, Francine, but anyway, I highly recommend them. It's great fun. So the first story, again, the tableau story, is called Dead Trees. The guy in the cherry picker wishes he could stay up here chopping down dead trees, far from people pestering him for this and that. His wife wants a new fridge, his lazy son an off-road bike, his father-in-law a widescreen TV. The 6-year-old kid watches the cherry picker roar and chop from the deck where he's hiding from his ditzy babysitter. He doesn't ever want to be a lawyer like his pissy father, but maybe he'll be like the guy in the cherry picker, using levers and buttons to swivel around the gigantic swaying trees. 2 houses over, the neighbor is pissed that the power surges from the damn cherry picker are ruining his online prayer meeting, whose minister's boobs keep his hand busy. The babysitter hates sitting for this whip smart kid, like being asked to look up the fucking hydraulic system for that damn truck. The kid calls it a cherry picker with a straight face, something the goober boys in her 10th grade class would snicker at and grab their packs. A woodpecker, a beetle, a blue jay, a cat. My tree, my tree. Thank you. And thank you, Francine, for that. I've lost a lot of trees this summer. Bark beetles, anyway. The next story is called Letting Go. I'm standing at the south rim of the Grand Canyon, taking photographs of undulating rocks that sink to alarming depths. Soon I must stop. It is almost checkout time at my hotel, and I want to take a long soaking tub, a habit my ex deplored. A young couple approaches and asks, would I please take their photographs? I want to say, do I look like the park photographer? This happens to me in the Boston Commons and on the Cape's dunes. Always a couple in love, like this couple in their multi-pocket hiking shorts. I'm annoyed, but I set my Nikon aside and take their fancy cell phone, heeding their instructions. You were always a good sport, my ex once said, but sometimes you have to let things go. I line the couple up in front of the canyon's distant north rim. I wave them to move to the right a bit. Joined at the hip, they sidle right. As I nod and press the button, they're probably thinking I am a good photographer. Then I motion for them to step toward me for another photo. Unaccountably, they shuffle 2 steps back and disappear with scrabbling sounds and tiny shrieks. Then no sound at all. I whirl around for help, but there is no one in sight. On my hands and knees, I peer over the cliff's edge that hides the floor far below. As if to assure myself that they were once here, I look at their photographs. They are young, expectant, with squinty smiles against the afternoon sun. There are 2 backdrops, then a blur. Breathe, I remind myself. I set their phone on a wooden bench for someone to find it. It is the only evidence the 3 of us were here. And the last story I'm going to read came from, somebody once remarked that every novel has a dog barking once in the night. Anyway, I just became fascinated with the idea. And I urge you all, when you're reading stories or novels, to look for that dog. It's always there. Anyway, dog in the night. In every story's evening and every novel's night, there is only one bark by one dog alone in the night. Tell me, where is this dog that barks in the night? The dog that races from story to story, lopes from novel to novel, streaks into flash. The dog whose bark never disrupts a family argument, foils a break-in, halts a drug deal, and never, ever prevents a murder. And why? Why does the dog bark only once? This sad and sorry once makes it impossible to locate the dog, to race toward the mayhem, to speed to someone's rescue. Surely it's not a tiny yappy dog that nestles in a Fendi tote, welcomed at posh restaurants. The dog must be large, its chest a barrel, its throat a tympanic bell, its bark not a yip, not a howl, able to travel from doghouse to doghouse. Did I say doghouse? The dog must be tied by a frayed length of rope to a tree or abandoned on the side of the road. Maybe the dog is in trouble. Where are the other dogs? There is never an answering bark, a howl, a snarl of outrage. No Lassie to the rescue. I worry about that dog. I worry about us. Happy New Year, everyone, and happy writing. Thank you.
What's the title?
Thank
of
you,
that?
Pamela.
The title of that?
A Dog in the Night.
That was
And
fantastic.
Is it published somewhere?
That was in Michigan Quarterly Review, I think in the last issue or the one before that.
Thank you. It's fantastic. Love it.
Beautiful, beautiful, Pam. Really wonderful, wonderful reading. You know, I know Pam from when I was a student in the MFA program at Vermont College. And Pam was one of the fiction instructors. So I was doing my MFA in poetry. So I knew her through a friend who was taking her fiction class, and I sat in on a couple of her classes, and just an amazing, amazing teacher. So let's do another giveaway for, you ready, Paul? The Way of the Wind, which is my novella in Flash. And if you have it, like, I'll give you something else. I have other stuff too. So let's see. How about I'll just give you the number 4.
Elon, you know the rest of it.
Okay, good enough.
Barnahama.
Thank you.
Okay. So you'll, in the chat at the end, when I'm done, you can give me your name and how to contact you, and I'll send this to you. By the way, I have a new website up, and anything that you need to know, like how can you take a pop-up class? Where can you get my books? Where can you read my stories? That's all now at francinewit.com. I finally caved, and you know why? Because of the whole Twitter thing. Because everybody was like, oh, Twitter's going to go away. What's going to happen with Twitter? So I said, well, I better have a place where all my stories and things are. So I have now francinewit.com. I'll put that link in the chat. And find out about the pop-ups and how to email me, or if you want a signed copy or anything at all, I have videos of readings and flash stories and poems and so on. Is everybody on mute? I'm hearing some interference. So if everybody could be on mute, that would be really great. Okay, so now I'm going to read. And so these are all stories from the new book, Just Outside the Tunnel of Love, which is on Amazon. I know a lot of you have it already, so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. But yes, you've all been so wonderful to me, really. This is from Blue Light Press, which also published my previous Dressed All Wrong for This a couple of years ago. And so it's on Amazon, it's on Bookshop. I can send you a signed copy if you would like one. Again, just go through my website. And so I'll be reading a few stories from it, and hope that you might want to read more. So, and again, I really thank you, Paul, for allowing me this time and to do this, and all of your kind attention is very much appreciated. Now, you heard from Pam. Now, I'm very honored that Pam comes to my pop-ups because she is such a wonderful teacher. And I took a class with her last year, and this story came from that class. And it's in the book. All these stories are in the book. Just Another Road Trip Story. Throw in a woman, throw in a man, throw in a broke down Chevy, throw in a body in the trunk, Throw in a gas station, bramble and brush, hopper pumps and rattlesnakes shiver. Throw in the hot armpit sun. Throw in the woman's husband, who of course is in the trunk. Throw in the way you eyed the DoorDash guy. No, that's another story. Throw in Arizona. A road trip story is always Arizona. Desert and plump of dune in the background. The man, the woman, the husband in the trunk pulling into the gas station. Throw in a lonely pop machine where only a quarter will roll out a Coke, as crisp and cold as movie Christmas. Throw in a gas station attendant about to open the trunk. I'm going to check the spare for air, he probably says. Throw in the way your husband doesn't look at you anymore, not with anything close to desire. Throw in how you kind of sort of understand the woman in the road trip story and whatever she did to put her husband in the trunk. Throw in the man throwing his meat fist on the trunk. Thanks anyway, old man, we just need gas. Throw in the smell of rotting corpse working into the Arizona air. Throw in how your husband goes corpse when you tell him your life is a desert and his love would be like water. Throw in the gas station attendant going fisheye with suspicion. Throw in how he sidles inside and rings up the sheriff. Throw in a shootout at the end of the road. Throw in your refrigerator, dune in the background. Throw in no one there to check if anyone needs air. Throw in you just sitting there with no idea how this story. Thank you. This one is called A Martini Walks into a Bar. Late for work, the bartender yells and goes on rubbing circles into the hardened 5 o'clock counter. Outside, the sun is the color of a smile. I'll have the white wine, the martini says, folding his glass stem onto the bar stool. The bartender pours the wine and calls the martini an alcohol cannibal. The back room of the bar where the booths are usually filled with tinkly love is filled instead with the pleadings of an ugly man. He is asking his Tinder date why the ugly are not entitled to love. Why is it, he is saying, that we have the terrible luck of scraggled hair and bulbous nose? We are always scooping out a place in our hearts for one more hurt. The Tinder date has eyes the color of not my problem and says this conversation isn't working. The bartender tells the martini, go do your job. I'll put some Ella on the jukebox. Too late, the martini passes the Tinder date who is heading for the bar. The martini jumps up on the table. He glides into the ugly man's mouth, who takes a furious sip. A bartender walks into the bar. He is hoping things will be better, hoping that these weird martini visions will stop. The sun outside is the color of his cheating wife, and he's been staring at it for answers. This staring has called halos and blurred retinas. He picks up a rag and circles the hardened wood. Why do I have such terrible luck? Why do I have such terrible luck? The bar stopped answering ages ago, said something like, this conversation isn't working, and can I just go back to being inanimate? From the back room of the bar, the tinkly bells of another heart getting shattered. The bartender puts Ella on the jukebox, hoping to drown it out. That's when the martini shows up and orders a white wine. The bartender hates himself for feeling a bit of relief. He tells the martini to lean forward so he can take a sip. The martini tastes like things that might have been, but aren't. The martini is the color of, dude, pull yourself together. The bartender nods and tells the martini about the ugly man in the back, and as long as you're here, go make yourself useful. Before you go, the bartender says, let me take another sip. An ugly man walks into a bar. First thing, he orders a martini as he heads to the back. The sun outside is the color of false hope. He gets to the booth and starts to think handsome thoughts. He brought a rose and chocolates for his Tinder date. Maybe, he thinks, she will get all sugar rushed and won't focus on my jagged teeth and droopy ears. He sits and waits for his martini. When his Tinder date arrives in her long-fingered, tornado-haired way, the ugly man is instantly enchanted, bewitched. Tinkly bells start to ring. She strokes a glass of wine that she says the bartender gave her when she entered. She says, this is what it's like to be beautiful, but of course he wouldn't know. That's when Ella pops up sudden in the air. The Tinder date brushes back the roses and candy, says that this conversation isn't working, that his being so ugly is only making her even more beautiful. She leaves the table and heads to the bar, passing the martini who is making its way to the table. The martini is the color of a martini. The ugly man looks over at the bar and sees his Tinder date making out with the bartender. The ugly man tells the martini, quick, jump up on the table so I can drink the ugly off of me. Soon, the martini and the man both become more beautiful. Soon, they are singing along with the jukebox. Outside, the sun is the color of an olive sinking in the sky. The ugly man takes another sip. So that's the story about a martini. Let's hear a story about a potato. This is called Potato Saga. 1. A lady falls in love with a potato. Why? Well, it's a handsome potato, so there's that. But when she fishes it out of the potato bag and hefts it in her hand, its eyes are facing up at her, and God knows it's been a while since she's been looked at. She names the potato Harold and etches a smile into its skin. She sets it in a cool, dry place to keep it fresh and longing for her. She strokes the curve of its forehead, the smooth bubble of it. She will buy it a beret, she thinks. She coos that she will be right back, shows up a minute later, negligee and sex perfume. 2. It doesn't take long before the potato has had enough and rolls itself over to the open kitchen window. A potato's life, it reasons, is not very long, and it's got to make the best of it. It rolls past trees and loamy fields. It gets a homesick ache for the heft of cool dirt on its back. The potato wonders if it ever had a mother. Do vegetables have mothers? It cries through his mouth peel into the world that is sudden and huge around it. Nobody listens. The potato wonders if it's made a mistake. 3. The potato chef asks the potato if it wants to be mashed or French fried. The potato chef doesn't usually pick up potatoes on the side of the road, but this one looks so lost. And also, the potato chef is trying new things, like calling it road potato or found potato on the menu. He certainly can't serve the potato baked, not with that weird-ass smile curved into its peel. The potato chef is really a line cook. His boss found him one day rolling around the side of the road. Now the line cook likes to pretend that he is a potato chef, thinks of the mouth that the potato might end up in, the teeth gnash and savor juices breaking it down. Mashed or French fried, the first decision the line cook has made in months. And if he is not mistaken, a very sad look in the potato's withery eyes, winning out that potato's silly smile. The potato chef straightens up, picks up a knife. Potato murder or mercy killing? The potato chef couldn't say for sure. 4. The lady is dressed up nice and fine, cloche and hatpin as set. First time out in a week, the lonely week since Harold disappeared. The restaurant buzzes around her, clink and clatter in Frank Sinatra. Good to treat yourself, she thinks. Hunger's rumbling her stomach. The waiter takes her order. Good choice, madame. Very special. So special, in fact, that the line cook brings it to the table himself. The potato soup she ordered in Harold's honor. The line cook beams as she takes her first ferocious sip. I'm so glad that you like it, madame, the line cook says. This potato in this soup was no ordinary potato. But do you know, it had a smile curved into its peel. And I just have a couple more. But why don't we give away something else before I read the next story? How about the Take the Smoke the Moon, my chapbook from last year. And again, if you already have this, I'll swap it out with something else. How about the number 17? Who would that be, Paul?
Sandra Arnold.
Okay, Sandra Arnold. And again, Sandra, I don't know if you have this or not, but I'll send you something else. Okay, great. Okay. I have a lot of stories about Harry. Harry's my bad boy name. Yes, I know I named the potato Harold, but he wasn't, Harold is different than a Harry. So this is called Speaking Harry. When Harry says hello, he means for now. He means let's see how the evening goes. He means he might or might not have something else come up and he will have to leave. When Harry says, I brought you flowers, he means this is still not an engagement. I'm sorry, Paul. Okay.
Sorry.
When Harry says, I brought you flowers, he means this is still not an engagement ring. It will never be an engagement ring, so don't even ask. It's a good thing I speak Harry. There are subtleties that only a trained ear can pick up. When Harry says, I'll put these flowers in a vase, he means these flowers will die in a few days, so don't get attached. Notice I didn't bring a houseplant. Notice I didn't plant you a tree. When Harry says, let's order in, he says, don't go getting all wifey on me. Don't cook me fancy schmancy chicken while you wear your frilly little apron that would look pretty good during sex. I haven't always been fluent in Harry. I still have the language of others bumping around in my brain. When I was 8 and Tommy from across the street said, let's play tag, he meant let's send up behind the bushes and pull down our underwear. I had to learn to speak Harry as if I'd landed from another planet, and Harry was the first human I had ever seen. Even though many of the things he said sounded exactly like the things other men had said, they all had just enough nuance to make it seem different. When Harry says, that takeout was great, he means, what's next? What's next? What's next is sex, of course. And when Harry says, the sex was amazing, he means, please notice I still didn't say I love you. He means we did some damn fine things to one another. We were skit-scatting like Frank and Ella. We should be an exhibit in a sex museum. When Harry says he'll be back in a minute, I have to pee, that's just what he means. When Harry says I'll bring a toothbrush next time so I can stay over, he means I want you to be confused. I want you to turn this over in your head. He means I still haven't told you I love you. He means his language doesn't even have a word for love. When Harry says goodbye, I'll call you, he means maybe and whenever. He means it's something you say when you just had scorcher sex with someone and it's just so awkward getting to the door. He means, of course, his language has a word for love. Every language has a word for love. It's just not one you'd understand. And finally, let's, before I finish up, let's give away a pop-up session. Okay, so this will be, you can come to any pop-up session and the number will be 23.
Myrna Chang.
Minor Cheng, very good. Terrific, okay. So once again, I want to thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And thank my spotlight readers, Joanna Tice and the wonderful Pam Painter. This last one is the last one in the book. And it's called Terror at the Top of the World. And it's probably one of the only stories I've done in mostly dialogue. Terror at the Top of the World. They're coming, John Louis says. It's louder than yesterday. His father is stirring their supper. Beans in a can. He pounds it open with a stone. Maybe, John Louis says, we should go norther. There is no norther, his father says. He pours some of the beans into his shoes and gives the can to Jean-Louis. I'm not even cold anymore, Jean-Louis says, and look, the ice is turning back to water. Good, his father said. We will need that to drink. I can smell the smoke from all the fires, Jean-Louis says. I couldn't smell them yesterday. That's why we have to practice not breathing, his father says. Soon, all the air will be gone. He takes a deep breath, his chest rising up with it. It's a good thing we got here first, John Louis says, eating the last of the beans. It's a good thing others didn't believe us. The air explodes out of his father's mouth. His father squints, looking south and then souther. They believe us now. There will be thousands of them, John Louis says, millions. They will take all our water, take all our air. Don't be afraid, his father says. The weaker ones will die off. Some won't even make it. We're going to make it, right? John Louis says. Come on, his father says, practice with me. Try not to smell the smoke. The two of them standing there, straight as poles, filling their chests with dimming air. Near, then nearer, the sound of thud boots on the ice crack, the sound of backpack babies crying, then whimpering, then not. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it. And it's just outside the Tunnel of Love, and I'll put the information in the chat. And thank you very much.
Francine, thank you. Great job. Our next reader is Sudha Balagapal. She's honored to have her writing in many fine journals, including Craft, Split Lift, and Smoke Long Quarterly. Her novella in Flash, Things I Can't Tell Anna, was published by Ad Hoc Fiction in 2021. She has stories included in both Best Microfiction and Best Small Fictions in 2022. And more at sudhabalagapal.com. Sudha.
Well, thank you, Paul. Okay, we're going back in time a little bit. Summer of 76. I love Ali McGraw. I love her hair in the movie Love Story. Ma doesn't. She accosts us, my friends and me, as we emerge from the theater that screens English movies. I'm in a celluloid trance as she takes my arm with her ink-stained fingers and walks me home, where she stands me in front of the ironing board. Really, dear, this foreign movie with kissing, whistling and all will teach you God knows what. And this on the first day of your summer holidays? She marches over to the balcony, retrieves the clothes drying on the line. 2 saris, 2 blouses, 2 petticoats, 1 housecoat, 1 nightgown, 3 sets of undergarments, 2 pairs of socks, 1 bedsheet, and 3 towels. After dumping the pile on the bed, she instructs me to iron them all. Everything gets ironed in our household, even handkerchiefs. From tomorrow, I'm sending you to science and math tutoring. She's a headmistress. Of course, she believes movies will corrupt me and that I should study all the time. She also speaks in pithy sayings. Just remember, education is the one thing no one can take away from you. She retrieves some rupees from the cupboard, tucks them inside her sari. Picking up her red and white plastic tote bag, she announces she's leaving for the bazaar and shuts the door behind her. I swallow to ease the knots in my throat, turn the knob on the iron to the highest setting. I press the hot iron on the washed towels, fold and refold them into haphazard squares. I iron the expanse of the bedsheet, crinkly crackly from drying in the sun. Ma cannot understand love between a man and a woman, or perhaps she doesn't believe in it. Her marriage was arranged. Besides, my father died so long ago, she's probably forgotten what it's like to be married. I only know my father from old photographs. When I witness the beauty of relationships on film, my heart expands and knocks against my ribcage as if it wants to burst out and dance. Takita, takita. Love Story's theme resounds in my head as I spread Ma's sari on the ironing board. I crave Ali McGraw hair, parted in the middle, hanging gorgeously straight. My tresses are the opposite, too wavy, too frizzy, too wild, unless confined in braids. I undo my braids, part my hair in the middle. Separating my hair into 3 segments, I tie up 2 bunches with hair ties and lay the third on the just folded towel. I run the clothes iron over the length of my hair, repeat the painstaking process section by section. As I iron Ma's sari, my straightened, silky soft hair swishes below my shoulders. I release the iron, stand in front of the mirror, toss my hair left, right, left. A sharp odor tickles my nose. No, no, no. The machine's left a triangular burn mark on Ma's sari. Ma will say, see, this is what happens when you fill your head with rubbish. I frantic unfurl the sari, then refold the 6-yard length, tucking the heat-singed shape into the innermost layers, finish as I hear the front door open. Ma sniffs. What's that smell? She sniffs again, then yells, what have you done? You've ruined your beautiful locks. Oh my God, you'll go bald. She pauses, then declares, who will marry you then? A jolt shoots through my belly as I realize that my mother, who's a headmistress and a widow, has marriage as the ultimate goal for me. She has hammered on about education. To date, she has never mentioned marriage. I wonder what she'll say if I tell her I want the relationship in Love Story. She drops the grocery bag, leaps into action and heats coconut oil with few grains of uncooked rice. She rubs and rubs the warm oil into my scalp and hair. While the hair soaks, she switches on the water heater. She seats me on a stool, mixes shikakai powder with water, works the paste through the density of my hair, and finally rinses off the mixture. After, she steers me to a chair on the balcony where I must stay until my hair dries. She arranges my hip-length wavy hair to hang curtain-like over the chair back. I sit on the balcony until the sun goes down. I sit and run the scenes from Love Story through my mind. I sit and think about Ali McGraw's hair cascading over her shoulders. I sit and tight braid my hair, finish by securing the length with a tie. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sudha.
Thank you all.
Great. Our next reader is Cindy Rosmus. She originally hails from the ironbound section of Newark, New Jersey, once voted the unfriendliest city on the planet. She talked like anybody's from West Side Story and everybody from Saturday Night Fever. Her noir, horror, bizarro stories have been published in the coolest places, such as Shotgun Honey, Magazine, Dark Dossier, The Why Risk Review, Under the Boardwalk, and Rock and a Hard Place. She's the editor, art director of Yellow Mama and the art director of Black Petals. She's published 7 collections of short stories. Sydney is a Gemini, a Christian, and an animal rights advocate, and a fine writer. Cindy.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. And I just want to say that the story that I'm reading tonight, I wrote last week, was so inspired by you as my idol, the flash fiction god. Right before I wrote it, to be inspired, I was looking in the Yellow Mama archives for all the Paul Beckman stories. Mama Met the New Neighbors, Kiss Kiss, Heist, How I Keep My Job. I just, Paul, this is dedicated to you.
Thank you.
It's called Personal Things. You serious? My neighbor Joey said. You gotta be kidding, his wife Sandy said. My best friend Freddie, his hand was still out. $20 from each of you. They looked at each other, then back at him. Christina's request, Freddie said. Via living will. Want to see her dead? You gotta pay. He struggled not to laugh. Dear Freddie, best friend a kid could have, though we weren't kids anymore. Maybe I was, now that I was dead. Maybe I could be any age I wanted. But I wasn't gone long enough to know. She can't spend it, Sandy hissed. Death, Freddie said, is a personal thing. The wake had just started and they were the first ones there. God, Sandy was annoying. If you had red lipstick on your teeth, she'd lick hers and say, Christina, do this, in a bar full of cute guys. She'd love to see if I had on red lipstick now. That was in my living will, too. Once my lips were sewn shut, the right shade of lipstick should be applied. Pay up, bitch. Why so early? A quick walk through. Boo-hoo! I'm so sorry. Christina is gone. Then out the back door into Boxer's Brew. Boo-hoo! They keep up there to scarf rounds of free drinks because they'd be $40 short. Joey sniffed the air. Overpriced flowers and formaldehyde, but also, is there a KFC or Popeyes around here? Freddie smiled. No. Well done chicken wings, I've requested, like a death row last meal, though I hadn't killed anybody and couldn't eat them myself. Neither can you, I thought smugly. Biggest mooches ever, Joey and Sandy. Always in my fridge, but they thought I didn't know. Stealing the last beer I'd hid behind the mayo. Once while dieting, she'd opened my last chocolate pudding, ate one spoonful, then put it back. Fat ass bitch. $20, please. Things are getting fuzzy. I go from loving all this on like a movie screen to fading out. Like leaving the theater with the buttered popcorn on my seat. Without knowing who the killer was. Or if I was even murdered. If I was, one of them did it. You're gonna get shot, Freddie had warned me way back. I laughed. Wise, Freddie. We'd shared guys. Some who had jealous wives. But we were there for each other. When one's heart gave out in my bed at 4 a.m., who helped me dump the body? It was garbage night, so we left the guy on a mattress up the block. I was no angel. I wasn't expecting wings, only justice. So which one did it? Plenty. I had them, both Joey and Sandy. How she sneaked down at Jose the Super because she lost quarters in the dryer. But their hamper was stuffed with soiled, stinking clothes. How Joey'd sneak over to me while she was, quote, washing clothes. How she crooked her pinky, giggling about Joey's size. How I'd seen stars with the real thing. How their intercom was patched on with duct tape. What goodies were in the wall. So how they'd robbed that old man who was found dead in 1C. So which one killed me? The rustle of bills assured me that one of them paid. The box creaked open. All I knew, Freddie knew too. What we didn't, he would find out soon. Somehow he'd find out who did it. He'd make them pay. $40 was just the start. His smile, like the Cheshire Cat's, transcended mine. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Cindy, for the honor and the reading. Sarah Sarai is an independent editor of most anything with words. Her recent flash and her poems are forthcoming in the Rye Whiskey Review, McQueen's, Pine Hills Review, Big City Lit, and others. This year, she received 2 nominations for the Pushcart Prize and 1 for Best of the Net. Her most recent poetry collection, The Strapless Bra in Heaven, was published in 2019 from Kelsey Books. She's working on a chapbook's worth of flash and a hefty garbage bag's worth of drafts. Sarah.
Thank you. Wait a second, I have to make sure. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, now all this toggling, sorry. I didn't know I was working on but bios never lie. Okay, so in my horse walks into a bar story, some of you may have read it in the Rye Whiskey Review. So here's my follow-up. Same bar, same horse. And this is still draft. Horse walks bar into. Bartender nods. I'm sorry. Bartender nods. 1 double on the way. Horse shakes his head and his mane shivers. Unsettles the bartender, who diverts the unsettling. Says, can't be the same shoes you had on last time. They're looking down at the heel. Horse reflects. Bartender wasn't so stupid last time. No, sir, I left those shoes at the ball. Bartender squirms. Not much roaming inside my cache of observations. Of course, you can't be slipping in and out of your shoes. For you, sir, shoes are complicated as wardrobes of 19th century European nobility with their closets or cabinets. What do you know? Wardrobes slammed with finery and 50% less feet than little old equine me. There's that. Yes, there is, barkeep. The whiskey's a tad lighter than it was 2 days ago. Bartenders lost business to a meeting at St. Olaf, the Swedish Lutheran, where at 5 p.m., folks will set chairs in a circle and pass out copies of that Bill Wilson, Dr. Bob book. Sounds like a jazz duo. Dr. Bob on horn, Wilson on the drum set, the patter, more higher power to them. Bartender has hopes. Customers flock to a bar where a horse drinks whiskey. Twice in 1 week, horse is becoming a regular. Regulars are good people. Therefore, the horse is good people. So said Aristotle. Bartender leans in to feel the horse's swampy breath. He wants to know the perfect strangeness of a soft muzzle. Is relieved to have to slide 2 beers over to Warren, who shuffles back to a table shared with Marco and Greta. Marco's nursing a Diet Coke, not Greta. Horse speaks. You know, humans are an acquisitive sort. Whoa! Bartender works on a new bottle, all whiskey this time, and pours. Is the horse reading his mind? You think you own us. Bartender doesn't know what to say to this. Priscilla wasn't a talk to horses type of woman, but she might unravel the horse's complaint. Although, yes, she liked things. I'm sorry. I'm not prepared for this world. She liked things. She was an acquisitor, but what the Have I offended you? Horse shakes his head. No. Can a horse muse? The musings of a whiskey drinking horse. He neighs. The room freezes. Horse doesn't mind. I should write a book. Everyone relaxes. Bartender had not realized the type of woman he wanted. A woman who wouldn't blink when a horse ordered a double or proposed titles. Maybe Priscilla would engage the horse in bar talk and hold back on mithering to everyone that China's manufacturing domination, concomitant with America's contempt, fear, and awe of China, were going to lead the country into bankruptcy and its citizenry to the grave. Priscilla worried the things she liked would become unavailable. I guess we are acquisitive, bartender realizes. We broke hearts and now our hearts are broke. He and the horse lock eyes. Marco shouts at Greta. The horse jerks. His glass is sideways on the bar. Spillage is part of life for a bartender, part of life for a horse too. Bartender wonders about the size of the horse's member. Where'd that come from? The horse mentioned his member last time. No, he hadn't. Bartender himself is adequate. Could be his wife wanted more. Warren is experiencing personal slippage from a captain's chair, falling to the floor. Greta offers a hand, so that was the fight. Marco is shouting at Greta not to enable Warren. Back to China's manufacturing domination, concomitant with America's contempt. Crisis? I'm thinking we're more racial about Chinese types than anyone else, bartender says. We admire Japanese precision, great movies from Korea, but the Chinese, hard to put a face to a monolith. What does a horse have to do to get another drink? Bartenders filled his glass with an upgrade. There's your medicine, my good equine. Thanks, amigo. The horse tastes the upgrade, slurps the glass half empty, thinks, could he slurp the glass half full? Through the bit of window, bartender sees late afternoon slow explosions of light. Glorious has become the world. Bartender clears his throat. On the house. He says it brusque so as to signal a one-time deal. He's not in the business of not being in business. The horse indicates nothing. No awareness of how a business works. Ah, the lights just don't burst into fruition. The horse is quick. Nothing fruity about light. Bartender's eyes roll. The horse thinks the bartender looks like a horse. Oh, I get it, the horse says. His tail swishes. Whoa, little buddy. A customer returning from washing up holds up his hands. Horse locks eyes with the bartender. Little buddy. Bartender shrugs, but now his attention's been drawn to the horse's tail. He remembers his wife sometimes scrunching her hair into a ponytail. The divorce isn't final. Horse stares at him, gets it. One of the most difficult things about life is there's always hope. Bartender's eyes are alight with the memory of devastating pleasure.
Thank you, Sarah.
I can't get out of it. Thank you.
Catherine Silver-EO's work appears or is forthcoming in Atticus Review, Bending Genres, Citron Review, Craft Literary, Emerge, Literary Journal, Fictive Dream, Flash Boulevard, Vitro Magazine, New World Writing, Pithead Chapel, and Ruby Literary, plus others. Her CNF piece, Banging Pots and Pans, was nominated for the 2023 Pushcart Prize by Ruby Literary. Her flash collection, Wolf Song, and her novel Roots of the Banyan Tree are both forthcoming in 2023. Catherine is a reader for Fractured Lit. And Ruby Mag also nominated her Banging Pots and Pans for the Best American Food Writing. Catherine.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here with so much wonderful talent. And congratulations, Francine. It's exciting. You have a new collection out. Wonderful. Can't wait to read it. I'd like to read 3 micros. I hope it won't be too long. The first 2 appeared in Flash Boulevard, and the first of them is an ekphrastic piece, which I wrote in a workshop with Laurette Luzajic and Meg Pokras. And it's after Seville, the Dance by Joaquin Sorolla, and it's called For Better, For Worse. I sat alone in the corner while the other dancers strutted, swirled, stomped. I already danced myself sore, blistered, and exhausted 6 days a week for the benefit of those camera-happy tourists with their twangy accents and ill-fitting clothes. But the damas had wheedled and nagged until I agreed to show up for the Sunday wedding celebration. I wore my ruffled red traje de flamenca, but I was as firm as a sandalo striking the floor. There was no way I'd be performing. And no fake smiles for the joyous couple on their special day either. The whole thing made me want to vanish in a crimson cloud. I'd only agreed so as to avoid the inevitable. Better to endure the twang of strings, stink of ripe armpits, bright lights and carnival colors, than be at home with my fork-tongued husband, now that I knew the truth of where he'd been spending all those long, hard nights. I longed to slip away from them, from him, to embrace solitude, darkness, and most of all, quiet. Rest my throbbing calves and undulating brain, alone in my saggy bed, far from all that joy. The second is Made for Walking. Thank you. Made for Walking. She drew them on one by one, found herself singing, "These boots are made for walking," because they were, made for marching right the hell out that door. They were masculine boots like the Marines wear, but with laces the papaya hue of Puffin's feet. A little comical perhaps, but that's how they came, and who gave a shit anymore anyway? She had allowed herself to be too tender, showing in the soft pink of herself too soon. Now she'd stride through life, one heavy foot in front of the other. No problem too great for this soldier. And if she felt herself start to sink, felt that old trickle of fear, she'd tuck her flower petal heart under her wing, pull on those boots and get walking. Thank you. And I wanted to read one more. And this one appeared in Zvi's newish publication 10 by 10 last month. And it's titled Turning the Other Cheek. And this one was written, by the way, in Sarah Freely's workshop recently. I was hoping that she'd be here, but I know she's not feeling well. Turning the Other Cheek. For the first time in his life, Jay finds himself questioning the wisdom of insisting, as his longtime girlfriend Maria would say, on always seeing the best in everyone. He wonders how it might feel to be rude and judgmental for once. But just the thought of hurting someone's feelings causes his reflux to rise, his heart to hurt. Yet even on this most terrible of nights, he hesitates. Even after Maria said she'd had enough of his fire-walking, flame-swallowing, and other crazy stunts, not to mention how he was far too forgiving when that jerk at the pub put his hand on her arse earlier this eve. What she really needed from Jay was for him to set down his chalice of craft IPA and smite that yahoo on his ugly visage, but he just lectured him about decency and respect instead. "Look, babe, your kindness is part of what I love about you," she'd said on the way home, tugging at a charmingly wayward coil from his fro. "But sometimes you seem to care more about the feelings of others than about mine." Though it grieves him, he isn't sure he can honestly promise her that he'll change and be that man she covets. Just moments ago, he watched her walk out the door and stride straight back down the street, captured in the vivid light of Polaris and the full moon, her linen-cloaked body casting a dramatic shadow, and something in him broke. Now he lies paralyzed on the splintery floor, weeping into the warm, woolly coat of his Jack Russell mutton chop, until she shakes herself free of him with an irritated bleat. Startled, he rises to his sore, calloused feet, toughened from his daily contemplative barefoot walks through the dusty alleyways and lanes of town. "Oh, hellfire!" he exclaims with uncharacteristic force, causing Mutton Chop to jump and stare at him, as if there's something she wishes she could say. It's now or never. Without bothering to change out of his muslin robe, he strikes out into the night on the same path his beloved recently trod upon, but then veers toward the village where that miserable rogue with his roving hands resides. Guided by the same bold light that graced Maria moments before, Jay clenches and unclenches his fists, resolves to do the one thing that might bring her back to him. Humility be damned. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Karen, I had you on my list. Is that right? To read?
What?
I had you on my list to read.
I didn't think so.
Okay. Then I'll take you up. Your
Next
choice.
time. Next time. Thank you, though.
Okay. Niles Reddick is an author of a novel, 2 collections, and a novella. His work has been featured in over 500 publications, including the Saturday Evening Post, Biff, New Reader, Fourth Citron Review, Right Hand Pointing, Num Num, and Vestal Review. He's a 3-time Pushcart, a 2-time Best Micro nominee, and a 2-time Best of the Net nominee. His newest collection, If Not For You, has recently been released by Big Table Publishing. And while we have everyone's attention, Niles will be the feature reader next month. So
Thank you, Paul. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, Niles.
I appreciate it. And everyone, I've been sick, so I don't know how well I'm going to do tonight, but this is a new piece that's still in draft form. It's a flash piece, about 400 words, titled Fingerprints. I hope you enjoy it. I'm still working on it. So before I left the office, I sprayed Windex and wiped the glass on my desk. It had my fingerprints and smudge marks all over it. From shuffling papers to eating lunch and spilling chicken noodle soup I thought might help with my cold. Whether cleanliness was behavior instilled in me by my obsessive mother, who carried a bleach-soaked sponge as if it were an additional appendage or a bracelet dangling from her wrist, or from having learned how to be clean, neat, and orderly from being glued to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. It was behavior my wife loved, and leaving and coming in early to a clean office helped my day begin and end. After clearing and cleaning the table after dinner, I dozed in my chair, watching sitcom reruns until my own snoring woke me and I went to bed. I dreamed I was in my office with former occupants, managers who'd retired, died from heart attacks, or committed suicide when business was bad, all the way back to the turn of the 20th century when the insurance firm had been founded. They were putting their fingerprints all over my desk glass and telling me it was proof. Proof of what? I screamed. Proof of a dirty damn desk is what. I woke in a sweat, covers askew, looked over at my wife who'd stayed in the same damn position all night. I went to the restroom, had coffee, took a shower, and got dressed for another day at the office. When I opened my office door, I was stunned to see fingerprints and smudge marks on my desk. I wondered if Evelyn, the cleaning lady, had propped her hands on my desk to vacuum, steadied herself when she'd been over to empty the trash can under my desk, or rested in my chair, putting her arms and head on my desk for a power nap. I grabbed the Windex and a couple of paper towels and wiped. Later, I was on the computer checking rates for a client when something fell from my desk. It was a paperweight, craft work of a colorful caterpillar encased in a plastic, made by my son when he'd been in kindergarten. Each section of the caterpillar was his fingerprints dabbed in different watercolors. I'd heard of psychokinesis and wondered how that would have fallen from my desk, but I'd never experienced the psychic phenomenon. I didn't experience it then either. When I joined the other managers, they told me they had been sending me clues to get a checkup, but like most humans, I didn't pay attention. Thank you. Oops.
Thank you, Niles. Ron Colm. I do not have your bio, but Ron's a New Yorker who knows every bookstore in the city better than anyone else.
Thank you. It's because I'm pathetically old and I've worked 50 years in New York City bookstores. And I am going to read a piece. I have a book coming out probably in about 3 or 4 months called The Bookstore Book, and it'll be poetry and prose about the bookstores I've worked in. From the Strand up till I still vaguely work sometimes for Postman Books in Chelsea Market. Anyhow, this piece is called Privates. A long time ago, when things were much cheaper, I used to go to clubs and hear a lot of music. Heck, back in the day, I worked with Tom Verlaine and Patti Smith at the Strand bookstore. I was in CBGB's the first time television Tom Verlaine's band played there. That was the night punk began on the Lower East Side. Anyway, I started going to a club called Privates on 85th Street on the Upper East Side. At one time, it had been a private school, but that had closed, and now it was a cool place to see bands. A lot of great music happened there, from Bo Diddley to the Specials. Because of my bookstore connections, I got invited to an exclusive William Burroughs event that was scheduled to take place in that same venue. At that time, I was managing New Morning, a bookstore in Soho named after the Bob Dylan album. It was owned by High Times magazine, and for that reason, it was considered hip. Laurie Anderson and David Burns sometimes shopped there, and we made sure we always had a complete run of William Burroughs books in stock. His work, published by Grove Press, was very popular. So I was thrilled at getting the chance to see him, a writer I admired in person. I got there just as Burroughs was making his grand entrance, and to this day that scene still lives vividly in my mind. He came in with an entourage, an army of very young men, all of them about the same height, and all very well dressed. They crowded around Bill, which seemed to raise him up so that his feet barely touched the floor. There was a humming sound emanating from them as they passed by. It was like the buzzing of a cluster of worker bees carrying the queen to her throne in the hive. They escorted him to what looked like a gazebo, a small round structure in the middle of the hall, and then the celebration ensued. I got loaded, and the rest of that evening is just a blur. Thank you so much for letting me read, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Gloria Mindock, I never got your bio for tonight,
Yeah.
but I can say you're the publisher of Savannah Barbara Press and had an awesome poetry book called Ash come out last year that was an award winner in many categories. You're up.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. This first piece is called Entrapment. No one paid attention to. People just went about their business. Her image watched them all, saw everything, nothing was missed. With legs so long, waiting to escape from the photo and stretch across the narrow street, tripping all the passerbys. It was only rumored that such an event ever happened. At least, that is what my Uncle Max told me. The woman in the photograph could have been in a Fellini movie. I told my lover, he said, "What?" With that said, he hopped on his bike and rode quickly down the brick street with the wheels of his bike thumping loudly on the bricks as he approached the window. Fellini's women are so beautiful. He was getting close. What would happen? Would she trip him? Would he fall on the ground? Would he fall in love with her? In slow motion, it happened. As he started to look at the photograph, she, the actual model, walked out of the store on Louis Vuitton's arm. She wasn't airbrushed and smiled at him. The model had no teeth, but she did have legs. Oh, her legs were great. He thought about it. Legs or face? Can I kiss an Italiano with no teeth? He turned around, rode away to tell me about his adventure. On his way, he fell off his bike laughing. This was not a Fellini movie. This was a Woody Allen. This next piece is called The Faucet. The faucet is dripping. I cup my hand to drink a few drops. It is not enough. My throat is dry and the distance between dry and wet is enormous. How many times have I taken advantage of thinking things will always be okay? In the next room, a family hides like me. When are we ever safe? My mouth is stuffed with death, waiting for the blast. With regret, I open the window for air, but only smoke seeps in. I can't breathe. This is my final thought until tomorrow. I will try again to drink from a few things life still offers. Oops. Papers stick together here. Shy. Living in failure where words feel shy. If let out, they will only float in the abyss. My life remains doubtful, vulnerable in the eyes of others. Pain has become a habit of enduring. The sign of the cross, a ritual of images, prayers of rain. I see buildings fall around me, concrete so impatient it has to crumble. Death has entered this city. Taking cover, not knowing how much longer I have, this waiting is forever. My only certainty is the sirens howling like wind in my ears. I am flooded with water, tears drowning in skin, waiting to shed off this weariness, this moment, this time, a vacuum of sadness, grief for the last rays of light, accompanying me to infinity. This next one is called I Don't Mourn. I mourn what I throw away. Old paintings, photographs, objects, writings, all part of my heart. Each thing drifts in the wind trying to stick to life but can't. Is this me too, trying to hang on? No one has the same memories, same things in possession. Must I give this all up? Ignore me, I don't mourn. Best to close down, shut my eyes tight until there is only darkness, my fate. I can have little funerals daily as I pitch out life. This way, you will never own me. You don't want to anyway, junk to you. From the grave, hope my things will visit me. I don't want to be alone. Maybe you will sit by stone and talk, carrying in your pocket your favorite thing of mine. And the last one, thanks. The last one I'll read is called Crows. The crows are perched on the back fence, warning me of death, graceful in their waiting like my mother and her mother before her. After death, the birds bring gifts to help with mourning when life is gone. The crows know that everything ends up in the abyss. Guarding the transition, the abandoning of earth, through all the grief, memories scatter in the grass as I walk and they chatter. Give me my brothers back, my mom, to live an infinite life among us. Images returning before they disappear once more. A crossroad where we all connect, feeling the same air. Thanks so much. Thanks, Paul.
Terrific, Gloria. Thank you. Have I missed anyone? Well, it's not like me. Okay.
Patricia.
Oh, hi. You forgot me.
Pardon me?
You forgot me.
Who's talking?
Chelsea and Patricia.
Hi.
Okay. Why don't I have you down here, Chelsea?
I don't know. You asked me
Because
to-
I'm disorganized and I apologize.
Okay.
Please read for us.
That would be lovely.
And do you want to do an intro?
Yeah, sure. Hi. Hi, everyone. Thanks for asking me to read, Paul. It's kind of great timing because my chapbook comes out in a week exactly, Friday the 13th. Yeah, that's going to be fun. It's my second chapbook. My first one is called Breaking Points. It came out from Black Lawrence Press in 2021. I'm going to drop a link in the chat for the pre-orders for Everything's Changing before I forget. I'm terrible at this kind of thing, so gotta get it out of the way first. And if you have stuck around this long, thank you. I will be reading some fun stuff, so hopefully it'll be worth it. Okay, so my first story is called Modern Ghosts. It was originally in OK Donkey. And it goes like this. I'm sorry to report that if you can hear me, you're dead. Such a shame. But don't worry, we'll help you adjust. Being a modern ghost is tricky. We're so used to a never-ending stream of information that being deprived of it one day is like running into a wall you didn't know existed. It's a bigger shock than dying. Dying is inevitable. No one knows there's no shit posting in the afterlife. Sometimes you're stuck to the place you died. The side of the road can be boring as fuck, but the more you detach from the life you once knew, the more you can move around. Overhearing conversations about pointless shit becomes fascinating. You adapt to reading over people's shoulders. You learn who watches what, so you can keep up with the news and even binge whole shows if you haunt the right people. Without them, you just wander or curdle. It's stagnant ghosts who become poltergeists. Poor bastards are just trying to prove they exist by scaring the shit out of the living. The rest of us know the rules. Keep active and avoid the living you know. Staying active isn't hard. Some ghosts form sports leagues, and some obsess over bar trivia. It keeps them occupied. The second rule is the hardest to follow. When you die, something is severed. The people you love become stories that you left unfinished. Watching people talk about you like you're not there is maddening. It's the simplest way to become a poltergeist. So you follow around new people and watch them repeat your mistakes and realize there's nothing you can do. Your past is chiseled into the earth. Your future is written in the air. Your time alive was precious because it was limited. Now you have a meaningless eternity. And then you have to find someone else to haunt, maybe a therapist. Thanks. So I will be reading one more story. It was in Chestnut Review. Actually, both of these stories are in my chapbook that's coming out. So definitely check that out if you like really weird stuff. Thought that was weird. Things are about to get a little bit weirder. The story was originally in the Chestnut Review. It's called, Am I the Asshole for Falling Apart at a Dinner Party? My newly vaxxed friends and I, 28F, gathered for the first dinner party since the pandemic started. My friend, 29F, was hosting with her new husband, 29M, who she married in their living room. It seemed like everyone had taken the time to improve themselves. Someone, 28M, was now fluent in Mandarin. Another person, 32F, had gotten in shape during quarantine and had to buy new, smaller pants. None of my pants fit for the opposite reason. My married friend would object to me wearing sweats to her fancy dinner party with tapered candles and silver candlesticks. So I had to wear an old elastic waist skirt hiked high. I felt exposed. I've been holding myself together with paper clips and a prayer for the last 8 months. I was becoming strange. What about you? The Mandarin master asked me. What did you do? It's like when a high school teacher tried embarrassing me into feeling better about himself. And not only had I not learned anything during quarantine, but it turned out I hadn't learned anything from high school either. I just stared at the Mandarin master until someone cleared their throat and changed the subject. I was doing my best to smile and cheer everyone's successes when my right eyebrow fluttered off my face and into my neighbor's gazpacho. No one noticed. My neighbor kept slurping soup. My left eyebrow soon followed to the floor. Okay, eyebrows I can live without. That's what Sephora is for. But then my nose dropped onto my lap. My hand covered my face. The area was smooth. It was like I'd never had a nose. My friend kept talking about her wedding, about all the things that couldn't be captured in the numerous Facebook photo albums. That's when my left ear slipped off. I heard everyone's muffled voices from the floor where the C curve of my ear cheekily peeked up at me. Fortunately, my pandemic locks covered for me. My mouth went next, my bright red lips in my lap puckering as if for a kiss that would never come now. Fitness Barbie noticed me pushing food around my plate and said, "You didn't develop an eating disorder, did you? There are better ways to lose that weight." Everyone chuckled. I shook my head slightly, afraid to disturb more body parts, but I lost my second ear. My double D breasts, one by one, plopped onto my legs before toppling onto the floor in 2 loud slaps. What was that? My friend mouthed. Everyone looked around. My eyes chose this moment to pop out like ping pong balls and bounce across the table. Through my detached eyes, I saw the horror on my friends' faces as they understood. Chairs scraped against the wood floor as they all fled. My floor ears could distantly hear the screaming and dithering. My friends were so out of practice with tragedy that they didn't know what to do. It could be contagious. My hair dropped to the floor like a game of pickup sticks, inciting a fresh round of screams. Thankfully, they sounded more hurt than I felt, though I was running out of body parts. I kept thinking I would break apart like a Barbie, but then thinking wasn't a problem anymore. My head lolled off and rolled away, smooth like a honeydew. As someone dialed 911, my friend said, "You ruined my dinner party." Am I the asshole? Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. And Patricia, did I leave you out also? Well, you got to unmute to let me know.
I'm ready to read and no intro necessary.
Pardon me?
I'm ready to read and there's no intro necessary.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm going to read 2 extremely short pieces from the archives. The first is called The Good Smell. No one ever talks about the good cigar smell, the aroma once removed, just the way the smoke sets into clothing, then the room and the chairs and carpeting. What a warm, leathery, sexy smell it is. That said, I hate the Snow King. It's only the cigar smell of his office that I like. Clinging to the inflatable ball he sits on instead of a regular desk chair. The set of chunky dumbbells he keeps next to his desk, which no one doubts he can lift, even though no one has ever seen it. It's all of a piece with the Snow King, who is also our HR manager. Sure, he's conventionally handsome with that sinewy neck, those eyes like fragments of sky. But where's the frisson there? In contrast, Bobrov, my boss, seems to carry no scent. His crappy credenza is decorated with a smattering of Battlestar Galactica and Texas Rangers mementos. On his 30th birthday, Bobrov snuck out early and got himself a chest tattoo. Swallows, mermaids, and roses, very Americana. Funny, since Bobrov is Russian, with a Russian's core of malice and sorrow. The Snow King has an open door policy, even though he flashes a glass-hard stare at anyone who visits him. In contrast, Bobrov's door is always shut. From time to time, he will emerge, eyes red-rimmed. My father would have said Snow King treats Bobrov like a redheaded stepchild. Man, does that frost my cookies. In the afternoon, he slaves away in there at charts and flow charts and projections, perks to roll out to the staff over the course of the year to foment unity and retention here. The day we hear Bobrov weeping, everyone pretends not to hear. One by one, the HR staff leaves the office via the tiny elevator just big enough for one. They crowd into the vestibule, talking about what food they will cook, what television shows they will watch once they are home. Lost in his spreadsheets, the Snow King bounces thoughtfully in his marvelous smelling den right across the hall from me. Behind him, in his big window, the streetlights pop on with their familiar buzz. He has to notice as I rest my ear against Bobrov's door. Must see me slip inside, although the rest is known only to me and the slope-shouldered Russian, who it turns out smells of old papers and green onion shoots. Thank you. My next micro is called Neighbors, or Jesus the Line Cook. Up in Eugene, Oregon, Jesus the Line Cook shucks off his stinking Captain Beefheart t-shirt. He wears clogs to work like a fancy chef. His are cornflower blue. He flips the shirt into the plastic hamper and steps out of his chinos and underpants. His very ball sack is greasy after the long shift. Jesus lifts his feet one by one and steps into the steaming bath. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. His wife and newborn baby slumber down the hall. They live in a duplex apartment. The neighbor's place and theirs mirror images. After he soaks and soaps, Jesus will listen to the New Yorker short story podcast at low volume. A few minutes is all it will take for his eyes to grow heavy. One early morning after working a double, he'd been so tired, the paper delivery guy gently removed Jesus's keys from where he'd left them in the keyhole. Jesus froze where he lay on the couch while the paper guy opened the door slightly wider, set them down on the floor, and closed the door with an absolving click. Keyhole? Is that even the word? He is so tired. He's also blessed. Tonight, his next door neighbor, Brooks Maston, is up too. Verily, Jesus can hear him very softly plucking his banjo. Such a soothing sound. Tonight, his neighbor's loneliness is palpable through the wall that separates them. Jesus can't help feeling this stuff. He is an empath, an INFP. Man, Brooks is a good guy. The two grew up together in Nazareth, Tennessee. Their mothers have been friends and confidants. One of Jesus's warmest memories is of midday smokes with Brooks and their coworkers on a grassy hill behind the carpenter's shop where they both worked in the summers. The man's playing is so gentle and the night so still. Jesus believes he can hear Brooks' very fingertips on the strings. Soon he will rise from the hot water and towel off. He will turn some water into wine and materialize a little bread and fish in just a few minutes after he rests his eyes. He'll tiptoe over the dewy path in his robe and clogs and set them outside Brooks' door for Brooks to enjoy. Well, he'll do it if he can still hear his lonely neighbor tootling away on the other side of the wall. He'll definitely do it after he's rested and clean and dry. If his wife and baby haven't stirred by then, if he can just rest his eyes for a few minutes longer, then he'll reach out for sure. Thank you for staying and listening.
Patricia, thank you. And I'm sorry I lost your name.
I was a late addition. Thank you, Paul. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Listen, thank you all very much. Just to let you know, the featured reader next month is Niles. The month after Niles is Kim Chi. And then
Wow.
after with their new book, which is Pat. It would help if I showed it like that. And the month after that is Nancy Stallman with her new book. So if any of you have new books and want to be a feature, please contact me. And I just thank you all for supporting F-Bomb and not expecting me to be perfect. Because that's not going to happen.
Plus, you are perfect, Paul. We love you.
I am me.
Love you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you for hosting, Paul.
Oh, that's
Thank
a
you very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you,
Thanks for-
Paul.
Thanks, guys. Love
Thank
reading
you.
with you.
Thank
Thanks for-
you.
Thanks for
Everyone,
hosting.
bye,
putting on a
Paul.
great
Bye,
show.
everybody.
Thanks for putting
Bye.
on a great show, Paul, and thanks to everyone for a great reading.
Happy New Year,
Cheers,
everyone.
Zibby.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
Yeah. Thanks again, Paul.
Franny, you did a
Mm.
great job.
Oh,
Thank you,
so
Franny.
much.
What a good
Thank you. I
crowd
really
in.
appreciate it, and everybody
Wonderful.
listening, and you know, my Pam and Joanna and everybody else really did great. And FrancineWitt.com. It's for some reason it's not hyperlinking or something, but FrancineWitt.com. And you want to get a book, get a signed book,